Hey everyone, this is Steve and Saprit here with Fuel It, and today we're going to take the intake manifold off of an N55. So we thought we'd do a short video just to show you how to remove the intake manifold when you're installing our port injection kit or what have you. So with that said, we'll go ahead and get started. So the first thing you're going to want to do is to remove this center piece right here. It's a pretty big Torx, and so this is a 14 millimeter 12-bit, I guess, 12 whatever socket. Anyway, so we'll go ahead and just loosen this up. All we have to do is loosen it. You do not have to remove it. It'll be a pain in the butt to put back in if you do remove it, okay? And then for the other side of the strut bar here, this is an E14, so this one we do have to remove. So we'll take this all the way off of here, get this out of the way. Then you can just slide this straight out. Alright, then we need to remove the engine cover. So we'll pop this off, it just pulls straight up, pops off here. Alright. And then before doing any electrical work, we want to disconnect the battery. So that's a 10 millimeter. And we'll come back to the trunk here. And you can see here, we go ahead and remove this out. And then we're just going to disconnect the ground on the battery. It's pretty dark in here, so I'm not sure how well you can see it. But we're just undoing 10 millimeter there. Pull the ground up. If you were doing port injection, which we're going to be working with today, so the first thing that you're going to want to do is disconnect, either pull the fuse to your LPFP or disconnect the power to your LPFP if you're doing an install and stuff, and then start the car and then let the car naturally die. That will take all of the pressure out of the fuel lines for that, because you don't want any issues with that. So we have now disconnected power. And we're going to go ahead and disconnect the MAF sensor here. If you're an F series and you're running a JB4, you can actually leave that disconnected. And then we're going to grab, I believe it's a 6 millimeter for this hose clamp here. So loosen that up. And actually, out of habit, I did that one. You'll want to loosen this one up because you're going to remove that engine cover right there, so you'll want the bellows to come off as well. For these bellows, there's been issues, especially with high boost, with these collapsing. And so you're going to want to make sure that this is in good shape and isn't old, soft, and won't collapse when you're under high vacuum there when you're making a lot of boost. So that said, we'll move on with that. Then we'll go ahead and we'll take a rag. Will you grab a rag, Saprit, and we'll block off that intake so we don't get anything down in there. Then for our electrical here, there's a little button you push back here, one here. You go ahead and pull that straight up, and then you can get all of these lines out of here. Just go ahead and plug that so we don't accidentally put anything down in there. Same thing, we'll pull this up and here as well, and same thing, this just pulls up. Got a few rubber grommets and you can get it out of the way here. This would also be the same steps that you would take if you wanted to do your spark plugs as well, or maybe injectors for some reason or another. Alright, so now that we've got that up, now we're going to move over to the intake side here, and there is a little Torx right here, and you're going to need to remove this. So we'll go ahead and do that real quick. See what size that is. Alright, so that is a T27. So we'll remove these two bolts here. Oops, I thought it was a T27. I went one size too big. It's a T20. There we go. So you got the 1 and 2. Okay. You got that all disconnected there. We'll need to disconnect our map sensor here. Just push down, pull back, sometimes be a little bit of a bear. Pull back on that. That's disconnected. Make sure there's these little cubbies on the side for these wires to go into. You want to make sure that those are all pulled out of there so that when you are ready to pull the intake manifold, you can. Okay. And then this is our vent valve for the tank. So you just push in on the metal clip, pull back, and that's the disconnection there, like so. And then you'll take this off of the manifold as well. Just let it hang down there. It'll actually connect over here onto the throttle body as well. So we'll grab a screwdriver here. Go ahead and pull the C-clip to the charge pipe. And then for our hose clamp, if I recall correctly, I believe this was an 8. So we'll go ahead and loosen that up. Reach down here and disconnect your T-map. And this one is stuck. It looks like the plastic clip is out on it. See if we can get that off of there. Oh, there we go. There's a little plastic clip here, and this clip got pulled out too far, it looks like. So we'll deal with that later. All right, and then just go ahead and pull back from the throttle body. Go ahead and pull the charge pipe out. Here. Go ahead and hand me another rag, and we'll put a rag in here just to make sure we don't get anything down in there either. And then on the underside, if you're familiar with it, there's a connection for the throttle body. You can go ahead and undo that connection on the throttle body, and I'll show it to you. There's a little button that you push in right there. That'll disconnect the electrical for the throttle body. And then the throttle body, the bolts of the throttle body are 10 millimeter. So we want to go ahead and take those out. And on the N55, these are those plastic thread bolts. They're the coarse thread ones, unlike the N54. So we'll go ahead and remove those. Thank you. Throw that in here. So there's 4 of them. I like to save one of the top ones for last. On the N54, when you're doing this, you can get away with not taking the throttle body off, which is kind of why I'm used to disconnecting that electrical connection. A little harder to do on the N55 because you have the DME right there. So you can't really get to the plumbing connection that is on the throttle body there. And plus, to make the disconnect the DME just a little bit easier. Probably not absolutely necessary, but especially for this, showing you will show you how it goes there. Okay, there's that and that. Here's the plumbing connection I was talking about right here. So go ahead and that there. So like I said, that is what vents your tank. And so if there's a problem with this vent valve, you may get some DMTL codes or something along those lines. Now for the fun part, you have to, for these 3 connectors, and when you do these connectors, pay attention to the orientation. The one on the left has a top feed only. The one in the middle is fed from both sides, and then the one in the back here is fed from the bottom. 2 of them you can swap, and if you swap them, you're going to run into big troubles with your DME. So make sure you get those right when you put it back. On the back side here, just past this little lever, there's a little button you have to push down, and then that lever can slide out, and you can see the button right there, I'm hoping. So then you go ahead and pull that straight out. Then you kind of have to work from left to right, and then when you put it back on, you gotta, or excuse me, from right to left, and then when you put it back on, you gotta work from left to right. So you can go ahead and disconnect all three of those. Okay. And now, if I can get this opened up for you, get some light in here, just in case you're not able to see it too well. There's 3 more connectors in here, and you can see that there is a button you have to push on the side of each one. Well, there is a button on the other side as well, and so it's usually easiest to either remove this connector first, which in this case on this car, if I remember right, somebody lost the clip on it. There's a slide out on this that's normally there, and it just slides straight out, and then you can pull this up. Now that that's out of the way, we can reach down in here, we can push both sides of those in, and then pull straight up on it. Let me get that up there. We can pull straight up on it and disconnect it. These you can't mix up. They're different sizes and so on, so you can't mix those up. All right, so now all 6 of those connections are disconnected, and so that the DME is completely free now, so that's no longer an issue. All right, so that's removed. This is removed. There's a little clip on the backside here. It looks like we don't have the line in there because frankly this car gets torn apart all of the time, so it probably didn't get put back on last time. If you're an N54, you'll have a black box right here. You won't have this DME box, but you'll have a black box that's on 2 little metal clips that you'll have to remove as well. So in this case, of course, you don't have to do that. Everything else here is disconnected. Okay, we have one vacuum line right here, and I believe it's the same size Torx. Let me look and see here. I could put an extension on here, then I can reach down in. So T20, and we just disconnect that line. So that vacuum line comes up through the manifold, so you can't remove the manifold without taking that out of there. So we got that out of the way now. Then that just pulls up on out of there. You can set it off to the side. Now for the manifold itself, you have these clips here for the wire looms. Pull the wire loom out of them. You can get the clip out of the way just by kind of pushing down and then pulling out, and it unclips and you can rotate it up out of the way. No really need to take it all the way off, but that's how you get that out of there. So now you have 7 bolts left. Those are 11 millimeter, so we'll go ahead and get those out of here real quick. Just kind of loosen them up, and then when you put this back on, we're not going to go over the reassembly of it. When you put these back on, you torque them to 17 Newton meters. So in this case, this car already has our port injection kit on it. We're actually adding an LPFP sensor to it. The stock N55 does not have an LPFP sensor. So one of the improvements that we're working on right now is adding an LPFP sensor. So this will eventually become part of the install guide for that as well. All right, so now that we've loosened those all up, we can go ahead and pull the bolts and the washers out. And then this other one's pretty long. You'll notice I left one bolt there in the middle, and I did that on purpose so that I have that to stabilize everything while I get the awkward one out of here. So there's the awkward one. And now our manifold is ready to come out. So as you can see, our port injection kit's on here. Here's our input. If you are running a return kit, your return line will be here. Unless you are an S55, then your return regulator and return line will be here. Other than that, that's pretty much all for the manifold removal. Obviously, to reinstall everything would just be the reverse process. Just a note, you notice we disconnected the battery, and here's why we did. This is a live 12 volts. You come into contact with the ground there, you're going to have an arc show. So just better to be safe than sorry and disconnect the ground to the battery. Other than that, thanks for watching.